and the next task is the conditional distribution. So it's the third task in the workflow. And really, the meaning of the conditional distribution is that it is first a distribution. We have one for each prime individual, and it represents the uncertainty of the individual parameter values. This uncertainty takes into account the observed data we have for that individual, and also the fact that we know that the individual belongs to the population. So its individual parameter values cannot be completely different from the typical value in the population, for example, VPOP. So here in the scheme, the blue line represents the population distribution. So that's the distribution of volume values we expect in our population with typical value VPOP and standard deviation omega V. These are two population parameters that we assume have already been estimated via SAM. The gray line here represents my conditional distribution. So that's the uncertainty I have on the V value for individual one, based on the data available in the data set. So I have one such conditional distribution for each of the individuals in the data set. And here I have drawn the curves with smooth shapes. But actually, the problem is that there is no formula for this conditional distribution, no closed form solution. But instead, what we can do is to sample values from this conditional distribution using a Markov chain Monte Carlo algorithm. And there are several types of Markov chain Monte Carlo. The one we use in Monolix is the Metropolis Hastings one. So let's see how the Metropolis Hastings algorithm works. So the idea is that at each iteration of the MCMC, for each individual, we're gonna draw a new candidate random effect from a proposal distribution. We will see the proposal distribution later. Based on the random effect and on the typical population value, I can calculate the corresponding individual parameter. And then I will check if I accept this new value or not, based on an acceptance probability that is defined here at the bottom. In this acceptance probability, you see that I have how probable is this individual parameter value in the population with the new candidate versus the old one. So basically, if the new value I draw is closer to the VPOP, then this ratio of the two terms will be above 1. So it will promote the candidate to be accepted. And the ratio of these two terms here corresponds to the probability of the data given the individual parameters. If you remember the previous formula, this really represents the distance between the model prediction and the data. So if my new candidate allows the model fit to be close to the data, then this ratio will be above 1. So basically, the acceptance probability depends on does the new candidate leads to a better fit of the model to the data, and is it close to the typical population value. If we repeat this long enough, then at the end, the sequence of some candidates that are kept are actually samples from the conditional distribution. I talked about proposal distributions. So actually, we are working with 3 different proposal distributions that are called kernels that you can find in the project settings. The first proposal distribution is actually just the population distribution for the random effects. So normal, multivariate normal distribution. The second one is a unidimensional Gaussian walk. So from the previous candidate value, we do a small perturbation and then see if the new candidate is accepted or not. And we can either do that parameter per parameter or in a multi-dimensional way with all parameters at the same time. So from experience, we have seen that the best pattern is to sample twice from this, then twice from this, and then twice from this, and then repeat this over and over again. So if we look at a concrete example, so that's my population distribution, and let's assume that my first candidate proposed by MCMC is somewhere here. I will decide if I accept this new value based on this acceptance probability. And that's actually the conditional distribution I would like to get at the end, but that I don't know for the moment. So the first sample is rejected, for instance. Then I try a new one that is rejected again. I try a new one. This one is accepted. So that will constitute my first sample. I try again, rejected, try, accepted, etc., etc. So I can continue. And so I will really have a sequence of values that are some accepted, some rejected. If I keep all together the values that are accepted, they represent the conditional distribution. So I will not be able to redraw a smooth envelope for it, but if I take all these values, I can, for example, display it as a histogram, and they represent the conditional distribution. So really this like smooth curve behind, we don't know it, we just have the histogram. We actually have some stopping criteria to decide when to stop the MCMC algorithm. So once we have finished running, in the output files, we will not record all the samples. We actually will show you the mean of all the samples for each individual and a standard deviation of all the samples. And then for the stopping criteria, it actually will be based on the average of the means of all individuals and the standard deviation of the means. So if I show you here a live example, so that's really the different iteration of the MCMC procedure for 8 different individuals. Each time we have one sample more, we draw it as a histogram. So at the beginning, our histogram has only few values, but as I go through the iterations, you will be able to see better the histogram for each of the individuals. And here on the side, we see the 2 metrics we follow, and that will be used for the stopping criteria. So the mean and the standard deviation of all individuals. All right, so now that we have a bit understood how it works, let's check the settings. So the first setting is related to the stopping criteria. It is the interval length. So basically, when we follow the trajectories of the mean and standard deviation of all individuals, they create such trajectories, and basically we draw a kind of a tube around the last value, and then we stop when the entire trajectory is within the tube. So the length of this tube is this setting here, interval length. So if you increase the length of the tube, it will be harder to be inside, so MCMC will run for longer. As a security, you can enable to stop MCMC at a pre-specified number of iterations, even if the stopping criteria based on the tube is not reached. The width of this tube is actually defined as a percentage of the last value. By default, we look at 5% around the last value. So that's going to define the width of the tube in which the trajectory should be before it stops. And actually, I told you we don't save all the samples from the conditional distribution, but you can choose how many of those samples you want to save. By default, it's 10. So we will exclude the transition period, but then when we are in the, for all the samples that are in the tube, we're gonna keep 10 of them uniformly spread over the length of the tube. And that's also something you can change if you want. So now let's see a few concrete situations in which it would be convenient to change the settings related to the conditional distribution. So again, wake up, that's a practical tips that will be really be useful. So in the first example, I'm again with my model-based meta-analysis model with many fixed effects. And actually, here I have this parameter eta between arm variability that represents only random effects. So that's a parameter for which I have fixed the eta between arm variability to 0. And I'm estimating only the standard deviation. And you see here that actually the mean over the individuals will actually tend to be closer and closer to 0 because the typical value that I have fixed is 0. And because our tube width is defined as a percentage of 0 is 0. So actually my tube is super thin, and actually I never managed to have the entire trajectory in the tube. So MCMC is running basically forever. So that's typically a situation in which we would like to enable stop at a maximum number of iterations without waiting for the criteria to be fulfilled, because the criteria expressed as a percentage is not well applicable to this case. And then you can choose the number of iterations. Usually 300 is enough, but in some cases you may want more. And the second example is in a case where actually I would like to do dynamic individual predictions. So actually I am in a case where I have a tumor growth model. And for each individual, I would like to predict how the trajectory of the tumor growth would continue after the last observation for each individual. But I could do that just with the EBEs, but the EBEs would just give me like a single line. And I would like really to know the uncertainty for each individual. And the uncertainty is captured in the conditional distribution. So actually what I would like to do is really to use several samples from the conditional distribution, simulate the trajectory with all these samples, and see how my individual could evolve after the last observed time point. By default, MonoX will save 10 different values from the conditional distribution. So I could use these 10 values to draw my different trajectories of the tumor regrowth, but that's not really much, 10 values. So what I can do is to increase the number of values that are saved. So that's called simulated parameters per individual, for example, to 200. But you remember that these values are taken over the length of the interval. So if I want to keep 200 values, I need to have actually an interval length of at least 200. And actually some values are identical over several iterations. So to avoid having two identical values, usually we take an interval length that is 5 or 10 times larger than the number of parameters we want to keep.